He managed to thrive, so I can't die.
Something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and it is overall life satisfaction. But it's not simply life satisfaction in my own eyes, in my internal world of everything that happens around me, but also the perspective that I see of other people's life satisfaction, whether or not they notice it at all. To think about those moments of time where you experience the extreme emotions of someone you know closely, and you're just not sure whether or not, did I cause that issue? Or was it from something that was underlying that you were not aware about in that moment? And that's really why I'm coming to you today. I've created another assessment tool. This one is all about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but really attaching the AveyaZ twist as I tend to do things and applying it in a different manner. So if Maslow's hierarchy of needs was the foundation, then now this bonus that is attached to what I call the AveyaZ applied hierarchy of needs is the modern day variant of what we really should be looking for now. I will leave a link attached to find the assessment tool. I'll show you how to get to it at the very end of this video. I'll put it in the document myself. But as you get to the screen, when you click the link, this is what you're going to see. And this happens to be the same information that you're going to see on the beginning screen of this tool. So without further ado, of course, I love the new background that I got going on here. Let's just dive into it. And this is going to be different because I have not personally taken this assessment tool. I am the creator of it, but I did not take it yet. And that's why I want to be the firsthand experience doing it with you so that I'm not only showcasing my vulnerability, but also really getting to the understanding that Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a great starting point, but then we want to become even more thorough and start diving down into the nitty-gritty details to where we're starting to pull out this information that we maybe were not aware of in the very moment. So here we are. As I called it, AveyaZ applied hierarchy of needs, plus the bonus Aveya Factor, as is the statement that I call the ultimate resonance factor and overall lasting impact. The AveyaZ hierarchy of needs is a thorough dive into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So therefore, giving a little bit of background if you don't know what it is, Maslow's hierarchy organizes human motivations into a 5-tier pyramid ranging from basic survival needs to higher level growth needs. I, of course me, AveyaZ, have created this assessment tool to thoroughly investigate overall life satisfaction and need fulfillment, going beyond the theory into applied realism. This questionnaire involves 150 total questions, and the results page at the end will generate a reality resonance profile, as I call it, that will include the Aveya Factor. Be honest. Are you ready to see where you stand? Because I am, and I'm going to be as truthfully honest as I can. And thus, I am ready. Identity protocol. So you get to type in your name here. Of course, you already know who I am. And if you don't, welcome aboard. My name is Aveya. It's a pleasure to meet you today. So let's begin. Question 1. How would you rate the restorative quality of your sleep? And by the way, this is broken down into multiple topics, all based around, of course, you have the 5 pillars that is related to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Then I've actually added 1 or 2 more. And thus that's going to be the AveyaZ twist in the applied application as well. So question 1, how would you rate the restorative quality of your sleep? Perfect, good, average, poor, and critical. Overall, I almost always sleep well at the minimum. I am currently unemployed, so therefore my life is a little bit chaotic, but grand scheme of things, generally speaking, if I'm planning to sleep well, it's because I'm actually intending to do so. So generally speaking, it is good, but the majority of the time, as of right now, I would be sleeping so much better if I was in a more guaranteed association of what I'm doing every day. If that makes sense. So therefore, I'm going to go with good as my answer here. Question 2, do you get a sufficient number of hours of sleep consistently? Absolutely. When I say my restorative quality may not be a high quality, but I'm always getting the number of hours that I should in some way. It just could be a little bit variable. Maybe I got up an hour later because I stayed up a little bit too late the night before. Maybe I was talking with friends, having good conversation, you name it. And when those moments of time come by, I'm taking them, right? Not always, but depending on the mood and what's going on the next day, there's a good chance I might stay up a little bit longer past my normal means because I'm spending the time to build that deep relationship satisfaction. So always getting the good proper amount of sleep, but maybe not exactly the quality reflecting that. Question 3, Do you struggle with falling asleep or staying asleep? Never. If I go lay down in bed, I'm asleep within 5 minutes. Just being honest. I've never really had an issue with insomnia, and that is a blessing for myself. I know there's a lot of people out there that absolutely suffer from insomnia, but for me personally, I don't have that issue. I can go crash on the floor right behind me if I really needed to, and to be honest, I have done that. I know it's a little crazy, but yeah, I've totally done that. Question number 4. Do you have a consistent pre-sleep routine that allows you to unwind? I absolutely do, but as I was saying before, because my life is a little chaotic in this moment, I'm not always doing that if I'm staying up a little bit later than I probably should. But because of that factor, I'm going to say most of the time, yes, absolutely, I have a pre-sleep routine. And I typically do follow through with it. Question number 5. Do you have enough physical energy to get through your day? I am incredibly energetic all the time. Even when I'm not sleeping the best, I still have a lot of energy. It would take numerous days consistently in a row of bad sleep, poor quality, not enough hours to actually start taking down my overall energy level. Not only that, but I have this insane amount of energy and I don't take any caffeine. So imagine if I started taking caffeine, right? Yeah, I would be bouncing off the walls and doing all kinds of crazy shenanigans. Don't give me any caffeine. That's the best thing. That's the right thing there. But absolutely, I'm in abundance of that. Question number 6. How often do you feel physically exhausted or wiped out? Pretty much just said that, and that's the answer is never. I'm never feeling exhausted. Question number 7. Do you wake up feeling recharged and ready for the day? When everything is consistent, absolutely. I'm taking the vitamins that I need at proper times. I have a pre-sleep routine. You name it. I'm doing everything in the way that it should be. But as of lately, there's only 1 out of 10 days where I'm not feeling recharged when I wake up during the day. But I think that I could have consistency of bad days in a row and still wake up feeling wonderful, right? So I'm definitely say always. And it's just because I always have that upkept amount of energy, right? Question number 8. Are you free from physical pain or discomfort? Yes. I've never broken any bones. And I may or may not have, it's unofficial, but unofficially sprained my ankle from going to a trampoline park. Yep, I remember that. I was there for 5 minutes, the trampoline park. And I bounced off a trampoline and slammed on the hard ground. And, I didn't feel great afterwards, but I don't have any issues with it though. So who knows? But completely, I have no pain or discomfort. Question 9. How confident are you in your overall physical health? Very confident. To this day, now, though I'm not the leanest that I would want to be, but I am the strongest I've ever been. I have the highest amount of endurance I've ever had. And putting those two things together, as well as never breaking any bones and not having any discomfort issues, I feel incredibly confident about my physical health. Question number 10. Does your physical health limit your daily activities? Pretty much answered that. And the answer is no, it does not. Question number 11. How often do you undergo physical training or exercise? Even when I was employed in an office work environment, and I was still attempting to do something every single day at the minimum, right? Even if it's just 20 minutes walking on a walking pad. I call it a treadmill. It's pretty much the same thing, right? This one's a little bit more high tech than a walking pad, but it's just a cheap alternative. So I'm always trying to do something, and at the minimum, I have done something. So absolutely, I've daily of some form, I'm doing something. Question 12. Do you intuitively understand your body signals before they become in pain? I never push myself to a point where I'm causing pain. And I mean that in both personal and professional methods. I don't push myself emotionally in ways that are too far outside of my comfort zone, but also in terms of doing physical training and really not just going to the gym, but also doing running and stuff like that. If I get to a point where, yes, I'm pushing myself, but I'm not causing harm. By the end of the day, I'm never going to be ruthless to a point where I'm causing harm, because then the purpose that I go to train is to get better, come back, be stronger. And if I'm causing pain to myself and causing discomfort, that's not rewarding me, especially in the long term. So therefore, absolutely, I'm incredibly intuitive. Question 13. Do you have reliable access to nutritious food? I would definitely say I'm abundant in this. And it's a two-faced statement right there. And it's because One, I don't really fall into the category of eating a bunch of processed foods. I'm not the quote unquote eating clean type of guy. I'm eating healthy. And typically speaking, my nutrition is about 95% vegetarian. I just so happen to include eggs because I love eggs, but also I use it in French toast, and French toast is my number one food, and I'm never throwing that away. But the purpose behind that is I absolutely do understand what my body needs nutritionally speaking, and a lot of the foods that I eat that I feel the best, not only feel the best in performance standpoint, but also as close to being vegetarian as possible is the best mechanism for me. There are some avenues where I have my quote unquote cheat day or cheat meal in accordance to, and it's McDonald's deal. And one day I'll actually showcase that. But besides the point, I have this access to an abundance of good, high quality, nutritious foods. Question 14, is your daily environment physically comfortable? Temperature, air quality, space. At one point in time, it was not, mostly because this living space that you see right now, actually, let me go ahead and showcase it. Yeah, this living space that you see right now, it used to have a ton of, oh my God, this place was bug infested to hell. It was so bad. I couldn't believe it. Wherever something could live, it was living here. Right? And that just sounds so terrible to really think about. The amount of times within the first year of living in this house, I would quite literally wake up in the middle of the night or first thing waking up in the morning, and there's an earwig or some kind of spider that's just literally right next to me when I wake up. After a point in time, I honestly got used to it just because I just recognized it's a bug infested home. I do my best to get rid of it, but also there used to be mold issues in the house, and you could actually smell it at a point in time. And obviously that's really not healthy. A lot of those issues have been fixed now, and including the bug infestation, because I hired pest control and I've had them come out a couple of times. So therefore now air quality, the space is great. There's enough space for, on average, I would say for 2 different people to live in here, and it just so happened to live by myself. But overall, yeah, it's perfect. I wouldn't change it. Question 15. Do you have access to clean water and sanitation? I'm going to say yes. Without a doubt, yes. But could the water be better? Yes, that is true as well. And let me explain. So in this house, there's a private well and septic system here. The septic system is what you use to, drain all of your pipes out into whatever drainage system that you have attached to your property. And in this house, it was brand new when I came to buy and move in here. But the water, it is a private well source, but it doesn't have water filtration. It just doesn't. The only thing I have here is, oh my goodness, I can't think of it off the top of my head what it is right now, but it's the salt machine. Reduces the amount of hardness in the water. I seriously can't think of what that is off the top of my head right now. But yes, I've had the water tested. There's a mid to high amount of arsenic in the water, so a little bit of heavy metals. And you can tell because in the part that you live in, if there are areas where around the sinks or even in your toilets and you have this brown or orange like material that's kind of just grows there over time and until you go and clean it, but that's from heavy metals, right? And also from other things like rust and stuff. The water is usable and it's great, but in my current understanding, I wouldn't necessarily be using it as drinking water because of those heavy metals. So therefore, I'm going to go with it's a good source of water. I can use it, I can wash in it, but would I be drinking out of it? Not really a good thing for the long term. Question 16, are you eating habits considered healthy and fueling? Optimal fuel for me, everything that I do, I already talked about, is incredibly healthy. And to go one step further on top of that, in terms of like eating fast food and stuff like that, or even just getting takeout, I only do it maybe once every 6 months. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm hyper consistent when it comes to that stuff. I love the foods that I eat, and I feel great eating those foods as well. Question 17, how often do you consciously indulge in healthy whole foods? Every meal. Already discussed it. You know it. I already do. Question 18, how secure do you feel regarding your current financial resources? Yeah, my current financial resources are not great because number one thing, I am unemployed. My financial resources right now are critical. I really don't have much of anything in my realm of things right now. And really the only reason I'm able to keep pushing forward is one, for the option of gig work, but two, it's just financial support from my parents. And I am so in debt to them that they're doing that for me. But also I wish that it should really be the opposite, where I should be the person taking care of them and not them taking care of me still. And it will change. I will be that person to be able to do that for my parents. And I hope to be able to do that while they still continue to live, because they are getting to a point of aging, and my mother still works and she really should not be working anymore. But that's another story on the side for a future time. So absolutely, yeah, it's critical right now. It's going to change, and it's just taking a while for it to do that. Question 19, can you handle an unexpected emergency expense $500 to $1,000 without panic? Nope. No, I really couldn't. And even when I was employed, on my savings account, I was only putting in about $500 a month to my savings. And that was only because I wasn't doing anything on the side that was super fun. Gaming, it happens to be one of my hobbies. And if I was buying a new game, maybe once a month, $20. That's generally speaking what it was. And that just goes to show how much I really wasn't using my finances for means that are my overall wants and those little desires. I wasn't spending, just being honest. So no, and right now I can't. When I was employed, I could, and that wouldn't be a problem. But for now, no, I really couldn't. Question 20, do you constantly worry about paying bills or debt? In this time, yes, constantly. But 5 months ago, no. I was totally fine, and I never had to worry about paying bills or debt. And I really don't have much for debt. The only debt that I have is the mortgage to the home. Thankfully, it's a fixer-upper, not super expensive, but it's still debt, and it's still something you have as a monthly obligation, right? So right now, constantly. Question 21, do you have a long-term financial plan or strategy in place? This is the easiest answer I could provide, and the absolute answer is I have a clear plan. I'm not only building YouTube as this AveyaZ channel, but I also recognize that sooner or later I'm going to be employed again. I have not just a skill set, but also the incredible desire to not just tell somebody I'm ambitious, but to really showcase it. Question 22, do you feel your living situation is permanent and safe? Absolutely. The location I live, the environment, I mean, it's incredibly safe. And part of that as well is the fact of, it's not like I live in the world's greatest community, but do I ever feel in danger when I leave my home or even living in my home? No, not in this area. And on top of that, I've even said before where anytime I go into public, always somebody that will approach me and just try having conversation with me. To some of you out there, that might sound crazy, but to be honest, it's a normal thing. And especially for me, part of that is my persona. If you see this guy of all people out there at the grocery store or wherever you happen to go out there, yeah, you might come up to me and talk to me too, just because I look so friendly. But overall, absolutely, this is a sanctuary. Question 23, are you worried about losing your home in the near future? This is a tough question. And the reason I say that is because 1, I've considered relocation. And 2, I also recognize that though this environment is safe and I love the home that I live in, if I had to be honest with myself about what place in the world would truly resonate with me the most, it's not this town. It's not this city that I live in. And it's kind of a tough pill to swallow, right? Because, I mean, really, the only places I've ever lived in is here. And then the other place where I was living with my parents for 27 years. But I do recognize that I am more facilitated to the young professional city environments, dense suburban areas, as you would call it. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. You'll definitely understand once you see it. But I currently live in dense suburban, but this is also to an extent of being a more rural context as well. And that's just not my type of style. And also the environment of the community and the culture here, they're definitely rural in comparison. I'm incredibly urban type of person. Easily, you can figure it out by watching a single video and tend to understand that. Am I worried about losing it? No, I recognize that from the support that I have, I'm not going to lose my home. But in the same circumstance, would I ever consider moving somewhere else? It's a possibility. And especially nowadays, I've really had to come to that realization of being open about it. So am I worried about losing my home? No, I'm not worried about losing my home. Question 24. Does your home provide you with enough privacy? Absolutely. I don't live in an apartment complex. This is a single family private residence. and it's also on almost a single acre of land. It's like 0.8 of an acre. I can tell you right now, I live plenty far enough from the next door neighbor or anybody else to where I can't hear anything. I happen to live on a main road. It is an incredibly busy street, but it doesn't bother me. The only time I would consider where I don't have total privacy is if I was probably living in the estimation of about 10,000 square feet of a yard or less, because then it gets pretty close quarters. It gets quite to the point of close quarters to your next door neighbors. And it's not that I have a problem with that. It's just the fact of there is a absence of privacy at that point. Question 25. Does your daily work provide stability and purpose? Oh, and for the record, in case anybody doesn't know, or maybe they're international, an acre of land is about 43,650 square feet, I think. That might even be spot on. I could be wrong. But so about 10,000 square feet, approximately a quarter of an acre, 0.25. Does your daily work provide stability and purpose? Question 25. I was an accounting supervisor in the government sector. All the services that I provided was to a county government. And I have to admit, it provided the stability, but it wasn't for longevity. Okay. It didn't make enough to a point where I was going to be stable in the long term, especially with the inflationary environment nowadays. But did it also give me purpose? No, it really didn't. Did I get really good at the job that I was doing as an accounting supervisor? Yeah, I certainly did. But was it to a point where it was giving me purpose to coming back? Nothing like this YouTube channel will ever give me. That is where my daily work provides stability and purpose. Sooner or later, this will provide stability on its own, and it ultimately gives me purpose. So does my work provide stability in this moment? No. But also, does it give me purpose? This does. And in that regard, I will call it unstable in the moment, just because it's chaotic. But does it give me purpose? Absolutely. It's rewarding, but my stability isn't there. Question 26. Do you feel your source of income is reliable? Well, it is currently non-existent. Question 27. Are you satisfied with your current employment role situation? Nope. I hate it. I'm to a point where I'm dissatisfied, and I also hate it to an extent. And for one, my previous role, I could just tell it wasn't going to be for me for the long term. And I knew that I knew that pretty quick within the beginning. I just so happened to make do with it, right? But in terms of really what I'm looking for nowadays, I'm just hopeful that whatever the next thing that I have to do will be a lot higher on this overall satisfaction. And it comes in two ways, right? One is compensation and the other is purpose. And that's why I had that other question earlier. As an accountant, I really do enjoy the analytical part of being an accountant, especially as a supervisor when you're working with others. That enhances the other half of me, which is being incredibly personable. For that, I was satisfied in the odds of what I do, but does it give me purpose? No. I think the final answer for this and what I'm going to say is that I'm just dissatisfied, truth be told. Because if my previous role held on to the compensation that allowed me to live comfortably and be able to do fun things once in a long while, which mine did not, then yeah, I would have been okay with that. I would have definitely been coming in, feeling good. Nothing else was needed after that. But then also, always talk about the potentials of toxic work environment, which could come into play. And you ultimately have a choice. You can take it for what it is, make the best of it, which is definitely what I did, but also come to the realization that I did where there's something so much better for me out there, and I was very aware of it. So overall, dissatisfied. Question 28. Do you have a backup plan if your primary income source fails? I do have a solid plan. It's just not there yet. I'm still going to stick to that as my answer because of that overall idea there, right? And in general, even if I go and find a sense of employment into what I really could be doing next, I'll be just fine. Compensation wise, I will be just fine. But until that moment comes, I do have a plan, and ultimately the truest sense of making things work is to have a combination, right? You call it what it is. A lot of people will say it's multiple sources of income. For me, it's having this channel be able to hold its own while also being that continuing the employment into accounting services, you name it. So having a primary job and then also something to support on the other side, that's really what I'm shooting for within the next 5 years. And I have a solid plan to make that happen. Question 29. How often do you feel anxious about sudden negative changes? Never. Overall, I'm really just not somebody that gets anxious ever. I invite change because I understand that change is inevitable, especially in the year of 2026 right now. There's only going to be massive changes coming within the next as early as 5 years. And something that I've come to understand is when people expect change to occur, they welcome it. And I'm that person. So therefore, I'm never anxious about any changes. Question 30. Do you feel like your world is a generally safe place for you? Absolutely. I've already talked about it. I have the support circle. I have my closest companions that continue to support me and fuel me into things that I want to do with myself in the future. And also, mentality speaking, within my own environment by myself, there's nobody else here with me. I don't get to a point where I feel like I'm a disaster and I'm crawling to pull myself out of misery. It's not me. I have a very incredibly high sense of resolve and resilience. I'm always coming back. I want to change my own fate with my own hands. And that's something that I don't just like any of the other things. I'm not just saying it, I'm showcasing it. So therefore, it is a safe place for me because I'm always going to change it. I call it dominion by character. Dominion, the capability, capacity, and desire to change one's fate. Question 31. Are you able to relax without feeling like you should be on guard? Easily. I'm a very relaxed person. You have to take this into comparison. To be charismatic and full of energy is also somebody who is incredibly relaxed. Because if somebody is relaxed, then they're also able to feel like they're free and able to express themselves. So therefore, if I'm always having that type of energy, I'm never on guard. Even if I'm meeting somebody new, stranger on the street, you name it, and I'm talking to somebody new, I have no reason to bold myself up to something that I'm not. I don't have to. Question 32. How secure do you feel regarding your digital safety, passwords, and privacy? Thankfully, I've never had any bank accounts hacked. I've had a password hacked before, but it was only maybe one time in my entire life, so it really doesn't ever happen. And when it comes to how quickly I would catch something, if something was wrong and it wasn't right, it's almost as soon as it's happening, right? It's ironclad. I don't have any issues regarding that stuff. Question 33. Do you trust the environment, neighborhood around you? Yes. Ultimately, I do. I don't have any issues. Way to go. I trust it completely. Question 34. Do you feel safe walking in your neighborhood alone? Yeah, the only time I wouldn't feel safe is if I was walking into a hiking trail nearby by myself in the dark at night. Who would do that exactly? I don't really know, but I'm sure there are some enthusiasts that like the extremes and they would like to do that sort of thing. That's not me. I don't need to do that, and I really don't intend to. Question 35. Is your local environment free from excessive noise or pollution? Yeah, it really is. Pollution? No, I don't have experience any issues. Local fires, stuff like that. I don't experience that stuff. Excessive noise. I do happen to live in the city districts where I live very close to a school grounds. And could I hear a bell ringing during the day? Yeah, I probably could if I was standing outside. But ultimately, yes, it's a busy road. There is a lot of noise that comes from being on a busy road. But again, if you're inside the house, you really don't. You just don't experience that. Free from excessive noise. And I don't remember the other part. Question 36. Do you have access to emergency resources nearby? Yes, I immediately do. It's quite literally down the road. And if anything happened, I would have assistance within minutes. Question 37. Do you have someone with whom you can be completely vulnerable? I do. They are my closest companions, more than one. Thankfully, I have more than one. There are people out there that do not have that. And my hope is, as you're continuing to go through an assessment like this, is that you're coming to the understanding of where your weaknesses are and where the things that you do need to improve in your life. If you don't have someone that you can be completely vulnerable to, it's time to change that. Question 38. Do you feel deeply understood by at least one other person? Same thing with the last answer. My number one value, my relationships, and I refuse to give up on them. And not only does that fuel me to continue to do what I do today, but inevitably I will continue to be a better person because I want to do more for them as well. Deeply divine. Question 39. Are you satisfied with the level of affection, physical or emotional, in your life? I'm going to say satisfied. Though I do have these closest companions that I have, and they do support me for what I need, but also I recognize that I don't have a significant other, and that's why I created within this lore of this channel the protagonist character of AveyaZ. She is the embodiment of an ideal significant other for myself, and that person, that type of persona, it's one thing to be able to understand what type of person you're looking for, but it's another thing to be able to actually write it out and then create it, right? And that's what I did, is I created the embodiment of what my ideal significant other would be, and that is something that is just irreplaceable to me. Though I have not found that person quite yet, I recognize that this person can certainly exist, not just within my own mind. So therefore, until I meet that person, I could select the top answer. But for now, I am satisfied with the people that I know. Question 40. How many people are in your closest, most trusted circle of friendships? I would say solid few. Yeah, solid few. I do want to say abundant circle, but I also have to take a step back and come to the understanding there are a lot of people that I do talk to on occasion, but that's as far as it gets, is on occasion. If I'm only focusing on the people that I could reach out to and talk to on a daily basis, or maybe I already do, then it's only a solid few. And that's also why I've created this channel in the first place, because I'm trying to solve my own problem of finding the capacity, but also because I want to create the desire and capacity to not just create relationships, but create a sense of belonging and desire within deeply satisfied relationships. And the best way to do that is to help others be able to recognize that they can have that too. Because ultimately it's a two-way street. And the more that I provide to somebody else and give them a basis to where they recognize, hey, if you allow yourself to be more open and vulnerable, you too can find the same depth of relationship satisfaction that I also want to find too. My final answer for this, part of that is also because AveyaZ exists in this world, but I haven't quite found her yet. And again, I'm not talking about the character itself. I'm talking about the concept, the theoretical basis, the descriptive attributes of internal character that resembles AveyaZ exists. Solid few, final answer. Question 41. Can you resolve conflicts with loved ones without destroying the relationship? Always, always. The number one thing about me is when conflict arises, I allow others to be heard. And I don't just allow them to be heard, but I really do take in consideration of their input as well. I want their feedback because ultimately I'm not the best at everything. I'm never going to be. And I need other people's support to find the solution for these conflicts. And if there's not a solution that exists, then it's about time we go and create it. And that's what brings me here today too. Always able to find resolution within conflicts without destroying relationships. Question 42. Are you satisfied with the quality of your social interactions? Absolutely. And every time I go to improve myself while creating these assessment tools, but it really doesn't just get me thinking, it gets these other individuals thinking too, by asking the tough questions. And then once you continuously ask the tough questions, it becomes so much easier to pull the best responses in the moment of time when you need it the most. I'm wholesomely satisfied in my social interactions when they matter the most, of course. Question 43. Do you have friends you can call on to hang out with? Some. I do have difficulty in getting those moments of time to all pair together and get everybody to come together. But when it does, it's great. And a big part of this too is depending on the hobbies that I have, but also the things that I want to do in person. And ultimately, I have different individuals where those things apply, right? If I want to call somebody to go out to the gym and do some physical training, go work out together and be a fitness partner, there's a person for that. But then also, if I want to call somebody, come here or I go visit and play video games with, that's a different story too. That's a different person involved, and that's how it goes. But ultimately, how many of them could I call on the spot and say, hey, you got time to hang out right now? Only some. they would be tough to really get each and every one of those. Part of it is also just location and how far away they are, but ultimately some. Question 44. How often do you feel lonely? Never. And this is going to be a crazy thought process behind this, but let me explain. The reason why I never feel lonely, even though I live by myself, is because I have this persona that I look up to becoming, and it's almost like that secondary person on the back of your mind that's always telling you what's the best thing to do next. And it sounds like I'm painting a story in a movie, but stick with me here. If I had two individuals, this is exactly how my brain works. I have two individuals in my mind that I continue to think over in the process that they do to determine relationship satisfaction, the things that I need to do in my own life, you name it, and also what I'm looking for. It all comes down to identifying who I am as a person. And it is the two protagonist characters that I've created on the lore of this channel. And because I have that guidance of these two individuals that I've not only created, but they resemble every part of me in some way, I will never feel lonely, because I always feel like I have them in my guidance when I need to really take a moment to step back and be able to say, is this really right for me? What would he do in this situation? What would she do in this situation? And as soon as you put those two combinations together, I have a solution for everything. Sooner or later, I never feel lonely. Question 45. How many people are considered to be your closest companions? Squad plus, it's a full-fledged family. A squad, a duo or trio, solo, or none. I'm going to definitely say that it's a squad plus. It's a full-fledged family. It's part of two things. My closest companions is a squad, but I just so happen to also have a fantastic relationship with my parents as well, and also some of my other relatives. And together, if you put all of those people in the same room, it's not just a squad, it's a full-fledged family. Question 46. Do you feel like you truly belong to a group? I am a core member of that group. Question 47. Do you participate in group activities, clubs, religion, or hobbies? Woo-wee! I've come to the realization it's getting kind of warm in here. So question 47. Do you participate in group activities, clubs, religion, or hobbies? Frequently, regularly, occasionally, rarely, or never? I would say frequently. This is my hobby, but so is hanging out and playing games with my friends, and I do that from time to time as well. But ultimately, I would say frequently. Question 48. Do you feel a sense of shared purpose with people around you? In a very strong way. And thankfully, a big part of that is AveyaZ, creating these assessments, creating the lore, and overall, just generating all this original content that really just makes me different. It allows me to showcase a completely different form of my persona as well, but it also just gives me the purpose to be able to solve my own problems. I love it, and it's something I'm going to continue to do for a very long time. So strongly, I feel a sense of this. Question 49. Do you feel accepted for who you truly are? Completely, mostly, sometimes, rarely, rejected. For the people who matter, I'm going to put that in context. For the ones that are my closest companions and for the people that truly matter the most and have that impact on my life, 100%. Because here's the thing. The only people that I truly feel I have desire for that acceptance are the ones that matter to me the most. How many people live in this world? What are the odds that one of those people in this entire world dislikes you for something? Listen, it's probably 100%. It's going to happen, right? I don't need every person in the world to be able to have that acceptance, the desire, and everything like that. I don't need it. But I need to know that those I care about the most will fully accept who I am completely. Question 50. Do you feel the need to hide parts of yourself to be liked? Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. Never. I will always be who I am. I'm a simple as a children's book. What you see is what you get. Question 51. Are the people in your life supportive of your goals? Very supportive, neutral, unsupportive, hostile. This is a half and half. There are those that fully support me, but then there are going to be those that are likely, due to their own circumstances, unable to support the goals that I have. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody is able to provide the full support to another person due to their own circumstances. And I come to realize that. It's exactly what it's like in my life, where I do not have the full support from everybody that I know closely for all of my life goals, because some of them have their own goals and they want to find their own sense too. And they're busy doing that to be able to provide the support for what I do. Neutral. So yes and no. Question 52. Can you set healthy boundaries with loved ones without guilt? Effortlessly, usually, with effort, rarely, I cannot. I always set healthy boundaries. But those healthy boundaries come in the picture like this. If somebody disagrees with me on something, there comes to a point in time where either if there are some form of disagreement with somebody and I recognize that regardless of what I say, it's not going to change anything, then don't waste my efforts, right? I'm not going to waste my own efforts trying to get somebody to find compromise and agree with me. Not going to happen. So I'm not going to waste my time. But can I set healthy boundaries? Oh yeah, and I do. Question 53. Do you respect the person you see in the mirror? Rock solid? Mostly? Fluctuates? Rarely? No. I, without any doubt, fully respect the person that I see in the mirror. And it's ironic because I've actually painted him on this channel and his name is Von Zagar. Question 54. Do you generally feel like you're good enough? Absolutely. Yes. Sometimes. No. Worthless. Absolutely I do. And the reason is because I recognize I'm always going to strive to become a better version of myself. And there will be a point in time where I do get really good at something that maybe I'm not at right now, but I will get there. And the reason is because not simply I'm saying I will get there, it's because I have the attributes of character, resolve, resilience to continue coming back and not just show up again, but taking into consideration my heavily thorough analytical side of nature and doing the research, taking into the logical representation and diving deeply to get good enough at whatever it is I need to do. Question 55. Are you kind to yourself when you make a mistake? Always, mostly, sometimes, rarely, never, wholeheartedly. If I make a mistake, I recognize I'm going to come back and hopefully not make it again. But how do I stop making a mistake? I go, I do the research, and I get better at what I do. Already talked about it. Question 56. How quickly do you bounce back from rejection or failure? Instantly, quickly, slowly. It lingers. I don't. At a point in time, because we're talking about currently, right? At this point in time, being unemployed and feeling like I've been beaten down to where I've been crawling and doing everything I can to come back up and be this full embodiment of the persona and reach that point of self-fulfillment. It's been tough, but I've been bouncing back from failure faster and faster and faster. If I get a rejection from a job application, I used to feel really not good about it, but over time, it doesn't even faze me anymore. I just come to the realization we weren't for each other, or maybe I wasn't for them. I still think back in myself and say, they're just looking for something else. I come to the realization that if it's based on the complexity of another person, where the rejection or the failures come into play, there's so many factors all together that come into play of whether or not it was going to work out. And I only have so much control on that. I stick to my systems, I stick to my routines, and I stick to my structure. Systems, structure, routines. That's how I keep coming back. Is it instantly? Nowadays, it absolutely is. Before, it was slowly. At one point in time, it lingered. I felt all of these at one point in time in my life, but now it's instant. I get right back up and I keep going. Question 57. Are your contributions recognized and valued by others? Highly, yes, sometimes, unnoticed, disrespected. Depending on the individual, but I'm going to put this in the context. From the people that truly take the moment of time, they have the full capacity to really evaluate and analyze somebody else to determine their recognition and their contributions. Every time, it's highly. I am spoken of highly. But from those, and that's how I can tell when somebody doesn't actually go to recognize the value, the input, and also the structure that I have as a person, I become unnoticed. But it's not from reasons that's within my control. It's within reasons within their own misguidance. It's the way I see it. In order to provide the contributions and be recognized by another person, they have to allow themselves to recognize those things. And ultimately, if somebody in that capacity is not capable of seeing what somebody else's potential or what they're capable of doing, they're never going to see it. Is that because it's your fault that you couldn't shine bright enough? No, of course not. Because they themselves did not have the capacity to be able to see what you were made of. So absolutely. Question 58. Do you receive positive feedback or praise for your efforts? Often, regularly, occasionally, rarely, never. Within my friend groups, often, all the time. People look up to the things that I do because they see that I take unique perspectives on something, and then also I transform it. I take basic knowledge and then throw it into a perspective that's completely different, and then all of a sudden I start diving into data-driven detail, and there can be a whole new perspective driven out of it. You can look at data and figure out what's going best and what could be wrong based off of a scenario, but then you can also see behind the scenes of why the data is showing what it is. And that's what I do. So that's why I'll usually get positive feedback or praise for my efforts, both in a professional standpoint and in a personal standpoint. From those who decide that they have the capacity to see what I've done and what I create, yes, I see the feedback and it's positive. Question 59. Do you feel invisible in your social or professional circles? Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. I never do. I also don't have to hide it either. I'm typically the friendliest person in the room, and I shine bright because of it. Question 60. Do you feel skilled in the areas that matter to you? Mastery, capable, average, unskilled, failure. I don't just dive into detail. I attempt to master it. And I also use this analogy that I've used a couple times where you have two different personas. One person is efficient 70% of the time, and the other person is efficient 90% of the time. But they both spend 3 years doing the same thing. Who got better at it? Obviously, person B compared to person A, where person B was efficient 90% of the time. That's the one who's going to get really good at something very quickly. And that's where I come from. I am very efficient with my structure. I understand how I work, how best I learn, and all this other stuff that really puts me together. Therefore, do you feel skilled in the areas that matter to you? Mastery, for sure. I don't just dive into something, I dive into the why response. I don't just dive into what it is that I want to be mastered in, I dive into why. Question 61. Do you feel capable of handling life's challenges? Very capable, unsure, overwhelmed, helpless. Very capable. Question 62. Are you confident in your ability to learn new things? Very confident, neutral, doubtful, incapable. Very confident. I'm a fast learner. And it's very easy to figure that out. Question 63. Do you have the freedom to make your own life choices? Total. Mostly, somewhat, little, trapped. Total. I don't have any restrictions. But to the current extent, even now, I still have the full freedom to do what I need to do. Question 64. Do you feel pressured to live according to others' expectations? Never. Rarely, sometimes, often, always. No. Quite frankly, I only live to my expectations. My principles are my guiding factors within my value system, my vision, and the mission to make a positive impact. Question 65. Can you express your opinions freely without fear? Always, mostly, sometimes, rarely, never. I always can. And the reason is because I respect others first and foremost. Even if my opinions are different from somebody else, I will still provide all the respect that the other person deserves. If you're a human being and you live on this planet, you deserve respect. Does not matter if we have any differences. I'm going to give you the respect that you deserve. And the only thing that I ask in return is, please do so for me as well. Question 66. Do you rely on others to validate your decisions? Never. Rarely, sometimes, often, always. Inevitably, we want people to be able to understand who they are so that they can validate their own way of decision making. And it's an incredible thing because it all comes down to self-esteem. That's what makes it so important. If you recognize who you are, you're never going to have problems making your own decisions because you know who you are internally. Do I ever rely on others? No, I don't need to. If for some reason I choose to, that's different. It's because I'm asking for feedback from other people, and that further generates the resolve in my decision. But do I need the validation of somebody else? Absolutely not. Question 67. How often do you engage your curiosity to learn new things? Daily, weekly, occasionally, rarely, never. Daily. Especially when it comes to this channel, I'm always doing something different. Question 68. Do you find yourself wondering why or how things work? Constantly, often, sometimes, rarely, never. Covered that so incredibly well. Absolutely. I dive into the why factor, then it determines the what factor. Start with why, end with what it is. Question 69. Do you seek out new experiences or ideas? Actively, regularly, sometimes, rarely, or I avoid them. Actively. The thing is, I recognize that I'm not the best at everything. And the best way to become better at what you're doing already is to seek out new ideas. Question 70. Do you enjoy solving complex puzzles or problems? Love it, like it, neutral, dislike, hate it. The best way to answer this is puzzle games. I love playing puzzle games. I don't play them often, but honestly, if they made more multiplayer-esque puzzle games like Portal 2, I'd be playing them. I love playing Portal 2. I love it. Question 71. Does the world around you make sense to you? Clear framework. Mostly, somewhat, confusing, chaos. I tend to become the enlightener. I enlighten the situation majority of the times, and it comes from having a new perspective and really searching for it, right? And so therefore, I have a clear framework. Question 72. Do you feel mentally stimulated by your environment? Highly, yes. Neutral, bored, mind-numbing. In the professional side, neutral. Of what I used to do for a living, neutral. Specifically the accounting, even though things change all the time in terms of compliance and regulatory standards and stuff like that, it's just not, you do it because that's the role you're playing, right? But the part that mentally stimulates me the most within my environment is definitely either when I'm playing games with my close companions or doing anything when it comes to the creative work for this channel. Definitely those two things in itself are highly stimulating. And also, I'm going to say stimulating as well can also be the joy that you feel with your closest companions, because I kid you not, the amount of times I can go in and I will just laugh my ass off all the time. And it's a really good feeling. Sometimes people just, even myself, I come to miss that after a while. And then the next time I see those guys, I come together and I say, you know, I don't care what we do today, but I just want to have a good time. And that's all that matters. But having a good time is mentally stimulating. Can you make sense of complex problems when they arise? Easily, usually, with help, rarely, never. Easily. I love being the person who tackles the complex problems because I feel that with my adaptability sense, where I'm very personable but also hyper analytical, I really do come up with some creative solutions. Question 74. How easily can you abandon a belief when presented with new facts? Seamlessly, thoughtfully, reluctantly, rarely, never. I'm going to say thoughtfully. And the reason is because I like to go through and also take into consideration what those facts are and then dive deeper. I don't want someone to just come in and tell me a new fact and say, this is the way things are now. That's great. And if it is true, fantastic. And I'm not saying I disagree when somebody does that, but what I want to do is take that and dive even further, because that's the type of person that I am. That's all it is. What somebody gave me could be correct. And it likely is, especially if there is with new facts being provided. But ultimately, I want to take the time to where I dive further, because that's what I do. Thoughtfully. Question 75. Do you have the resources to answer your questions? Abundant, good, limited, poor, none. I have access to the internet, and quite frankly, I just have all the sources needed to be able to answer any of the questions that I have. So I'm going to say absolutely abundant. Question 76. Are you able to pursue education or training if you want to? Easily, yes, maybe, difficult, impossible. This is a tricky situation because yes, I could easily do that, but it would also involve taking loans if I was trying to do more of like college education, right? And inevitably, is that something I'd want to do? No. But could I do it? Absolutely. Question 77. Do you feel blocked from information you need? Never, rarely, sometimes, often blocked. No. Never. Especially with the days of AI coming out and also just, again, having internet access. My internet access is not just regular high-speed internet. It's phenomenal. So I absolutely have the access to look for what I need. Question 78. Do you frequently teach or explain concepts to others? Daily, often, sometimes, rarely, never. Daily. Hello YouTube and welcome aboard everybody. If you're still here, because you're the ones who I'm teaching right now and showcasing all this from being vulnerable in myself. Also with my closest companions, we talk about new concepts all the time and we really do start diving into detail. And one of the things I'd love to see is diving into more data-driven stuff at some point in time, because that's just something I'm really good at. Question 79. Can you surround yourself with things you find beautiful, joyful, mostly, neutral, ugly, distressing? I'm going to say mostly. And the reason I say that is because within my own home, I don't actually have a lot of hobby related material. If you walked into my home, you really wouldn't know much of what type of person I really enjoy in terms of doing hobbies, besides looking at my entertainment center. You could say, okay, yeah, he's probably a gamer, really likes watching shows or something like that, right? It's a very cinematic feel in this room, as you can see again. But also with the play mats here, I have one over here. I have one in front of me, a play mat that's from the Fate Stay Night Heaven's Field trilogy. And I have another one that's back there, but I want more stuff like that. I don't have enough. And part of that in the future, I will get more of that type of material to really showcase it. But right now I don't have. So do I surround myself with a lot of stuff that I find beautiful? Mostly. I really enjoy what I have, but there's more that needs to be there. Question 80. Do you take time to appreciate the small things around you? Daily, weekly, occasionally, rarely, never. Daily. I am a big persona of making sure that you appreciate the small things in your life. Or if you have a boring job that is boring in context, then you find whatever it is that it takes to find some way to create the joy out of it. And that comes from appreciating the smallest things daily. Question 81. Do you have the self-confidence in your physical appearance? Significantly, moderately, somewhat, little, not at all. In terms of self-confidence, overall, I have a very high amount of self-confidence. Do I recognize that I could be a little bit leaner yet? Yeah, but I'll get there, right? But that doesn't hinder me in terms of my overall self-confidence level. I just recognize in order to hit the absolute peak, there's still more I need to do. But significantly, I have self-confidence. Question 82. Do you feel a sense of harmony and order in your life? Flowing gracefully, organized, balance, off balance, disorder. Right now, harmony? Yes, without a doubt. Order? No. No. I'm structured and I keep balance within the things that I do. And, you know, I do everything I can to maintain that on average 9 days out of 10. But also it's all regards to financial stability. Once I have financial stability, permanently have order in my life. In sense of harmony, I definitely have a sense of harmony within my closest companions. With the teeter-totter of harmony and order, I'm going to call it off balance because there is a lack of order, but only in financial stability. But if I had financial stability, then I would either be organized or flowing gracefully. Question 83. Is your personal space organized in a way that pleases you? Perfectly. Mostly, somewhat, messy, disaster. I mean, you could see it for yourself. It's very organized. Perfectly. Do you feel at peace in your daily surroundings? Always, mostly, sometimes, rarely, never. At peace? Yeah, I generally do not feel anxious. And to this moment in time where I have financial instability, I still feel at peace. if anything. But I also recognize that there is going to be a difference sooner or later. And it's that part of resilience that keeps me at peace. Always. Question 85. Do you prioritize quality over quantity in your possessions? Always, mostly, sometimes, rarely, never. Great analogy I'm going to throw at you. Number one is when I go to buy a new product, 3 ways I'm looking at buying a new product. Either the cheapest, easiest to grab, balance of price and value, or the most expensive, generally speaking, within an affordable means, but has insane value. And the way I do it is I follow that one right there. The third one. When I go and I look to get a product that I need, new computer, new camera, new microphone, new TV, new major appliances, you name it, I'm always saving enough money. I choose the item within a means of, can I get this within a few months? Within a few months, I save, generally speaking, about 3 to 6 months. Can I save enough money to buy it then when it comes on sale? Because I'm always waiting for big sales. Black Friday season, you name it. What does this mean? It means I'm always looking for quality, not quantity. Because by the time I get the high quality product that I feel matches the things that I need out of it, then I won't need to replace it for many, many, many years. And that's exactly what I continue to do with everything that I tend to buy. Always. Quality over quantity. Question 86. Do you have a creative outlet to express yourself? Daily? Often? Rarely? Suppressed? None. And this is a no-brainer here, but daily representation, you're seeing it. Question 87. Are you able to dress or present yourself in a way that feels authentic? Always, mostly, sometimes, rarely, never. Always. I dress for success. I know that's such a cringe-worthy pun to say, but I really do. I dress for my own persona because there is a persona that I'm trying to give off and I dress for it. Always. Question 88. Do you feel stuck in place, creatively speaking? Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. Stuck in place, creatively speaking? Never. There is a limitless amount of options that I have, but it's all about having the time to do it. And inevitably, that is as true as it gets. And I'm sure there are others that do feel stuck in place. I guarantee that. But I'm not one of those people. I just wish I had enough time to be able to do all the things that I want to do. Never. Question 89. Do you create more than you consume? Media, art, and ideas. Creator, balanced, consumer, heavy consumer, only consume. Are you just existing to consume? Or are you really going beyond just existing out there in the world, right? And for me, I'm not just a consumer. I am truly somebody out here who's not just consuming material, but also creating new topics, presenting new ideas, and truly existing in the space. Creator. My goal is not just to be here to take up space. Question 90. Are you becoming the person you are meant to be? Destiny, on path, maybe, stuck, wasting life. Destiny. I have that persona of the man that I strive to become, and he is the peak, and I will get there, and I will continue to do what it takes to become that. Question 91. Do you feel you're using your talents to their fullest? Fully, mostly, somewhat, underutilized, wasted. Fully. When I was just an accountant, no. I was somewhat using my talents to the fullest. There's a lot of other things that I could be very good at doing. I just so happen not to spend the time to do them. But now that I'm here and going through all of this material to solve the problems that I have in terms of networking, making deeply fulfilled connections, and also giving everyone else out there in the world to be able to experience that as well, because I personally would hate to live a life without living deeply fulfilled relationships. And I don't want that to be you either. I want you to experience what I experience and also be able to create, not just get into the point in time of having those experiences, but also really being there fully. Question 92. Are you growing as a person? Rapidly, steadily, slowly, stagnant, regressing. Rapidly. I am on repeat trying to become something more. Next, question 93. Do you actively seek out challenges that force you to grow? Constantly. Often, sometimes, avoid, fear them. I am constantly seeking out challenges because what I've come to understand is if I can't do it, who will? That is the number one factor that says I need to be able to do it. I want people to be able to look at me and be able to tell me, this is Aveya we're talking about. He can handle it. That means that I want to be reliable and other people understand that I'm capable. To be reliable, capable, and that's why I seek out challenges that force me to grow, because if there's someone out there that needs to be able to do something, I will do it. Question 94. Are your actions aligned with your values? Aligned, mostly, neutral, rarely. I'm a living lie. I'm not a living lie. I'm aligned, deeply aligned to my value system with my actions. I wouldn't do something, or if my values are not within the alignment of those actions, I'm not doing it. That's inevitably how I am. I'm aligned. Question 95. Do you feel free to be your true self? Always, mostly, sometimes, rarely, never. Absolutely. There is nothing holding me back to be who I am. Question 96. Do you make choices based on what you want, not what others want? Always. Mostly, sometimes, rarely, never. Sometimes I'm actually saying the answer first because it tends to be the first one, but always. I'm always making the choices based on what I want instead of what others want. Because inevitably I have to live my own life, and I come to the understanding that there are going to be tough decisions that I have to make, but it's the best thing that I need for myself. And inevitably somebody else can't answer that for me. Maybe they can if they really know every single part of me by heart. But let's be honest, even in your own lives, how many people can you count that truly understand who you are as a person and can tell you the exact decision that you need to make? I hope that there are many. I hope you say more than one. I hope that you can even say one. But if you say zero, we need to change that. I'm always making those. Question 97. How often do you experience profound joy or flow? Often, sometimes, rarely, almost never, none. Often. I love hanging out with my closest companions. Those guys are hilarious, and also they recognize the humor that I have. And it's a great combination of having the same desires and the things that we want. It's not 100%, but when it really comes down to it, the humor flows, and it's just always a great experience. Often. Question 98. Do you engage in activities that make you lose track of time? Regularly, sometimes, rarely, never, not applicable. Regularly. I have never felt so much fulfillment up to this point until creating the content that I make for this YouTube channel for AveyaZ. While I was still at my last job, I would think about this channel during the day. And when I'm taking a lunch break, I would go and work on the content, the planning. And then when I got home, what would I do? Maybe go to the gym if I was doing that for the day, have a great meal, but then I come back and I'm doing more of this content work. That's just who I am. I don't just lose track of time doing it. I'll look at the time and realize, wow, I'm late to go to sleep tonight. And that's happened a lot, regularly. Question 99. Do you feel a sense of fulfillment in your life? Deeply, mostly, somewhat, empty, despair. With this channel being what it is, it has given me a deep attachment, more than I could ever just ask for. Question 100. Do you wake up with a clear sense of mission or purpose? Burning purpose, clear goal, vague idea, drifting, no purpose, burning purpose. I know that I want to have a positive impact based on the moral principles and structure, the guiding factors that I have within myself. Absolutely. Question 101. Are you helping others achieve their potential? Purposefully? Often? Sometimes? Rarely? No. Do I really have to answer this one? Because you already know. If you're here, you already know. Question 102. Do you volunteer or give back to your community? Regularly? Sometimes? Rarely? Never? Cannot. I cannot. But I can, because this is my way of giving back to my community. Question 103. Do you prioritize the needs of others alongside your own? Always. Often. Sometimes. Rarely. Never. I'm going to say often. And the reason that I don't say always is because within my current standpoint, not all of my needs are met. And therefore, I unfortunately have to accept that I cannot fully support others. And it pains me to say that. It really does. I hate it. But I recognize that that's what I have to do right now. I have to get to a point where I can build myself up to be able to further support the needs of my closest companions and the likes of others. So therefore, often. I still do, but not as much as I wish I could do. Question 104. Do you experience joy when others you care for succeed? Pure joy, happy, neutral, envious, resentful. I am ecstatic when somebody else that I know and I really care for is experiencing something that's absolutely wonderful. It makes me feel amazing because then I realize sooner or later it will be my turn too. Question 105. Do you feel a connection to something larger than yourself? Deeply? Yes. Unsure? Skeptical? Disconnected? Deeply. Everything that I do is to make an impact, and I recognize that someday it will happen. I've already made a massive impact in many people's lives up to the point of today. And once this really becomes something more than just a side project and a hobby of mine, then it will reach out and become an even greater impact to so many more people out there. My goal is to make that happen, and I will keep coming back until that does. Question 106. Do you have spiritual or philosophical practices that ground you? Daily, weekly, occasionally, rarely, none. Of course, it represents me. That's why I'm here. I will continue to do it. Question 107. Do you feel a sense of awe about the universe? Often, sometimes, rarely, never, indifferent. I will have to say a sense of awe. I love to be alive. You know, I'm not the type that will turn around and decide I don't want to live anymore. That's not going to happen. It's never going to happen because my internal attributes of character tell me I have these guiding factors and I need to be the embodiment of those things and really be the showcase that to other people that these are possible and you can become the person that you inevitably want to be. Even with your dichotomy between the chaos in your life and the order and the structure you want to have, or the messiness of the relationships that you have right now to the absolute harmony of the relationships you want to build. It's all possible. It can all be there. We just have to take it one day at a time. And inevitably, I love the fact that out of any moments of time I get to be alive, it's this very moment where I get to be the person that I am right now, showcase to the entire world, and really get to build this sense of connection with others. Question 108. Will your actions leave a positive mark on the future? Yes. Hopefully, unsure, negligible, negative. I already have made actions that have left a positive mark on the future. To the people that I've already made an impact with and continue to do that. I'm not the type of person that will go and abuse others. I will never do that. And I'm also not the type of person who will go and harm others in some way for personal gain. That's not me. I don't intend to do that. I'm not going to. I will leave a positive impact. Question 109. Are you building something that will outlast you? Definitely. Trying to? Maybe. No. Don't care. Definitely. Maybe one day, 5 years from now, or even further beyond that, I will look back at a video like this that I made at this time and remember the time that it was and how I felt in this very moment to be able to say, yeah, that was a tough time, but I got through it. Question 110. Does the thought of your legacy influence your daily decisions? Strongly, somewhat, a little, rarely, never. It strongly does. And it's because it's a part of my guiding principles. Now, here's the twist, okay? The first 110 questions were all about the applied hierarchy of needs that was built upon the foundations of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Question 111 to 150, these final 40 questions are all about my lore basis of the Aveya Factor, the ultimate resonance and lasting impact. So now, question 111, topic on resolve. When the path ahead is obscured, do you have the will to forge a new one? Always. Usually, sometimes, rarely, never, always. I have a burning passion to just keep coming back. Question 112. Is your determination unshakable even when criticized by others? Unshakable, strong, moderate, weak, fragile. If I'm criticized by others, I generally come to the understanding that they don't recognize who I am. Internal attributes of character, who I am. They only are seeing the judgments of the outside perspective, or they're too quick to judge based on who I really am internally speaking. Unshakable desire. If I'm criticized, maybe there's a good reason for it. But generally speaking, I will take that, and as long as it is in terms of constructive criticism, I will take it and become better. But if it wasn't in terms of constructive criticism, and really it's just criticizing just to do it, that's a different story, right? Question 113. Do you possess the grit to finish what you start, no matter the difficulty? Relentless, persistent, sometimes. I quit often, I rarely finish. I do not quit. And I'll give you a funny analogy for those of you who are gamers out there. One of the games that a lot of my friends come together and play is League of Legends. And I'm the person who is the no surrender mentality. But the reason is because I understand that you're playing against human beings. They're not perfect. They're going to make mistakes. Why surrender on something when you recognize that they could make a mistake? And then when somebody else makes a mistake, you can come in and correct it. And that sends you higher above than what they were. So as soon as you hear that, you think, why would I surrender? I don't, because I don't quit. And that's why I also am able to continuously play so many games all the time without having any downtime, because I don't quit. Question 114. Can you stand alone in your convictions against the crowd? Fearlessly, yes. With hesitation, rarely, never. My convictions come down to my moral principles. I don't need anybody else to tell you that I will stand for them. But there is some nuance here. Do I feel the desire to have to stand against the crowd, against my principles? No, of course not. I know what I live under, and that is the part that I respect for myself. I can respect others to have disagreements. But if I absolutely had to, and for some reason, whatever the circumstance comes up, and I am forced to be able to do that, absolutely. I will get up and I'll stand for my convictions. I just hope that it's not very often, and I still will do my best to give as much respect as I can. Question 115. When you face failure, do you possess the capacity to alchemize pain into power? Alchemy. Recover strong. Survived. Crumble. Destroyed. I turn my pain into power. If I've suffered in some capacity, whether it's at the workday or a personal relationship, and I'm having a disagreement with somebody to where they're not giving me any respect anymore, you name it, I take that pain and I will use it to do something about it. I don't sit there and think, this sucks. About 2 weeks ago, I was sick, and I was horribly sick for a little bit, and it felt terrible. And by the time I finally recovered a week later, and my body composition, I gained a little bit of weight while in the process of recovering, because I didn't really get to do a whole lot of physical activity. I didn't just come back. I came back with even more effort than I did before, because I'm trying to make up for that week that was lost. That's how I operate, and that was the pain that I suffered. Alchemy. Question 116. Can you maintain your composure when chaos erupts around you? Unshaken, calm, shaken, panicked, frozen. The world could be shattering outside, and I will still do what it takes because I realize I need to keep going. And even when my environment is erupting and everybody around me is panicking and they're all showcasing their issues, I have to come to the realization that to best support others in chaotic environments is to make sure that you are maintaining your own composure. And it really does make a big difference. For me, I am unshaken. I feel a large sense of empathy, and I will recognize and resonate to the behaviors of others within an understanding, right? But I'm not going to take their emotions and start doing the same thing. I don't want to throw myself out of composure due to somebody else. I will do everything that I can to maintain myself. Question 117. Do you acknowledge and integrate your darker emotions, anger, rage, despair, hollow depression, anxiety, fear, and harness them to drive a better tomorrow? Fully integrate. Mostly accept, struggle to, suppress, deny them. I just pretty much mentioned that to where I absolutely do. I utilize the pain and discomfort that I've felt, and I will take it and I'll turn it into something better. Question 118. Is your integrity non-negotiable even when no one is watching? Integrity, doing the right thing. Absolute, mostly, situational, rarely, no. I am always doing the right thing regardless if anybody is watching. You could also take that into an accounting context where I come from in terms of the professional world. Of course, I'm always going to do the right thing. That's what I do. Question 119. Do you take full responsibility for your fate? Dominion by character. Absolutely, mostly, sometimes, rarely, never. I will change fate with my own hands. Dominion is the capacity to change one's fate with your own hands. I will always do that because I recognize if I'm not going to do it, who will? I need to be able to do it then. Question 120. Do you treat others with honor and respect, regardless of their status or utility to you? Always, usually, sometimes, rarely, never. Respect is one of the biggest values that I provide to other people, and that's oftentimes why I was called the friendliness at one point in time, years ago in high school. Always. Question 121. Is your word true to itself? Do you treat a promise as a binding pact that cannot be broken? Sacred. Yes. Usually, sometimes, no. In business, to break a promise is to break trust. And when you break trust, you no longer have a contract or an agreement or anything like that. So what does that mean to you? It means in a personal relationship as well. If you give a promise to somebody, you have to follow through with it. Because the minute that you don't, the trust is broken. And it's very difficult to come back from that. But to prevent losing the trust and losing that strengthening of the relationship, make sure that you're always following through with your promises. For that, I'm sacred. I always follow through with my promises. And if for some reason I cannot, and whether it's an event, an engagement that I cannot make, and I promised them that I could be there, I will absolutely tell them why. I will give them a logical reason why. I won't just tell you, sorry, can't make it, and disappear. That's not what I do. I will tell you exactly why and have it make sense. Because inevitably, it is possible that you can't follow through 100% of your promises. But if you can't, make sure that they know well in advance. Otherwise, you're going to make problems. And I don't want those. Question 122. Does your internal moral compass guide you more than external laws? It is okay to not challenge the law itself, but understand your principles may not align with the law. Always, mostly, balanced, rarely, never. I always follow my moral compass. Question 123. Can you list multiple strong character attributes that define you? Easily many, my top 5. Yes, a few. Maybe one. Struggling? No. I created on this channel what I call is the friend portfolio activity. And in the friend portfolio, one of the key pieces in one of the summary pages is literally listing your top 5 attributes of internal character. And yes, I can list my top 5 attributes of character. Question 124. Is your loyalty to your values stronger than your desire for approval? Ironclad, stronger, balanced, weaker, approval first. I do not need an approval to be able to understand what my values are. But also, my values are the reason of what gives me the desire to do what I do. I don't need another person to tell me. On top of that, ironclad. Question 125. How connected do you feel to your natural inner world? Values, mission, vision, and attributes of internal character. Deeply connected, neutral, disconnected, alienated. I did just discuss about my friend portfolio activity. I didn't just make it, but I also made one myself. And all of these word choices, values, mission, vision, and internal attributes of character, it builds on all of that. I'm deeply associated to all of those things for myself. Question 126. Do you feel a drive to leave a legacy that outlasts your physical life? Consuming drive. Strong desire, moderate, weak, none. Consuming drive. I do what I do today for all of you. Question 127. Does your presence positively alter the energy of a room when you enter? Significantly, noticeably, neutral, negative, I drain it. Significantly. When I walk into a room, everything changes. And I'm not just saying that, I show it. When I walk into the house where my parents live, it smiles. When I walk into the place to my closest companions, my friends, or other relatives, it smiles. It will stay that way. Question 128. Are you actively shaping the world rather than just existing in it? Shaping, participating, observing, neutral, drifting, hiding. I'm shaping it. That's why I'm here. Question 129. Do you inspire others to find their own strength? Daily, often, sometimes, rarely, never. I talk about this from time to time too, is what works best for me may not work the best for somebody else. And I recognize that. And that's why one of the biggest things that I do, and what I used to do as a supervisor in the professional world, is I come to the understanding of what the best strengths are from the other person's perspective. What are their internal attributes of character? And once I become to be able to paint the entire picture of that person, then I can become to the understanding what inspires them. And now we can actually go into finding out maybe there's other things that they can do that's work better for them. I do try my best to inspire others to make themselves better. Whether or not they do, I mean, that's totally fine. But do I try to? Absolutely. Question 130. If you had the option to make a difference in others' lives, would you take it? Without hesitation? Yes, maybe, probably not. No, I really don't care. Without hesitation. During my time of being an accountant, what I would tell people is that we are the facilitators behind the scenes. And that is our way of making an impact. It's not like the traditional aspect of a firefighter or somebody like that, right? Where they're actively going out there and potentially saving lives. Generally speaking, I'm not saving lives, but I do make a positive impact in my own way. And that's what makes me different. Without hesitation, I would take it to make an impact. Question 131. Do people naturally look to you for direction in times of uncertainty? Always, often, sometimes, rarely, never. Always. I will get phone calls from some relatives and some of my closest companions, and they will ask me questions and tell me about a scenario that they just feel stuck in. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that too. And one of the biggest things that really comes down to me is I don't just allow them to be heard, but I only give them solutions when they ask for it. I'm not there to give them solutions. And most of the time, what I've come to realize is when people are really reaching out to you, they just want to be heard. And when they're heard, they're allowed to process their emotions and process everything better. And they're forming that vulnerability in the connection with another person. But always, there are people that naturally do come to me for direction. Do you feel comfortable taking charge or leading others? Sometimes when there is not a solution available, we have to create it. Question 132. Natural leader, comfortable if needed, uncomfortable, terrified. I am the natural leader who will absolutely get up and attempt to change, bring change, provide solutions if it's not there. Question 133. When you are completely drained and have nothing left to give, can you still summon the will to take one more step? Always. Usually, sometimes, rarely, no, I collapse. Always. Like what I talked about earlier, when I was sick, I was still doing what I could to get by and to recover and make sure I was doing that. But then as soon as I finished my recovery period, I was up and at 'em, and I didn't just come back, I'm soaring, right? And the big difference is within humanity and the mindsets of how we do culturally speaking, we have expectations. And then there are some of those who exceed expectations and some who don't. But what are those expectations based on? Is it based on what's been done previously? Is it something that somebody randomly came up with? Like, what are those expectations? And that's really where you start to imagine that you have your own expectations. You know what you're capable of, and you will have to take that step forward, right? Somebody else can't come in here and tell you exactly what you and will end up being potentially. We could see potential in others, but I can't tell you what you could be. Question 134. Do you trust your own vision of the future enough to bet your current comfort on it? All in, mostly, hesitantly, rarely, never. I absolutely do. And that's why I will say it wholeheartedly. If I was given a year's worth of time to just sit here and do YouTube, to create on AveyaZ, and I had all my bills paid for 1 year, or even less than that, 6 months, 3 months, you name it, all in. And I would do what it takes to make sure that this becomes a reality. Question 135. If stripped of all titles, wealth, and status today, would you still know exactly who you are? Unshakable. I am who I am regardless of status. Yes. Unsure, I'd be lost. So there's a mixture here, right? You could be who you are because of what you do. That's possible. And it's also a part of you, right? When it really comes down to it, if I was never an accountant, I would still be who I am. That's what makes everything so powerful about what I bring to this channel, AveyaZ, is the factor of it's all internal. I talk about internal attributes of character, vision, mission, purpose, shared experiences, unity, not just living in it, but creating it. This doesn't tie to what your title is, what your wealth is, and what your status is. Status is inevitable. You could tell me who you are, and then you can also tell me, I just so happen to be an accountant. That's exactly what I am. I just so happen to be an accountant, and I have the educational background. But even if you got rid of everything, my education, my bachelor's degree, my certification, you got rid of it all, I'm still who I am because I showcase it. I'm unshakable. Question 136. When a sudden crisis destroys your plan, how quickly do you pivot to a new solution? Instantly, quickly, slowly, I freeze, I panic, give up. I instantly pivot. I do not waste time. And here's the thing, and it's all because I'm structured. When something happens, I have a structure and capacity to be able to say, here's what I will do next. And I follow the step-by-step approach based off of a couple of things, but it's all the same. When I have a problem, when a problem comes up or an emergency comes up, I handle it. If there's something that I want in my life, I do my best to get it. That's how I do things. And especially when a sudden crisis comes up, relationship standpoint, professional standpoint, you name it, I'm still going to do what I do. And that is to take it one step at a time, analyze the situation from all ends. Don't just bring in your emotional desires of how you want things to turn out, but then also take it in a logical standpoint too. Be able to understand what is possible. Be realistic if you need to. And that's why I'm always finding solutions as soon as possible. Question 137. Do you view emotional pain or hardship as a signal to stop or as data to learn from? Fuel or data? A lesson, an obstacle, a stop sign, trauma. As for me, it is fuel and data. And the reason is because when I have a bad experience, I take that into as a consideration to say, okay, this didn't work the first time, but I'm just not going to do the same thing the next time. And I take that into my relationship standpoints where relationships are incredibly complex. And if you're trying to do the same thing when it comes to working with other people and it's just not working, stop repeating it because people are too complex and have so many layers are involved in a single person to where there generally speaking isn't always a one size solution fits all. So stop making those. And that's why if I get to a point where I'm at a hardship and something just isn't working, I flip the script, I strategize, and I try to do something new. Question 138. If you had to solve a life-altering problem with absolutely zero help, could you do it? Without a doubt, yes, maybe, probably not, no. I am incredibly confident in everything that I do. And I also know myself better than anybody else. Without a doubt, I would not need help to be able to solving a life-altering problem. But if I just so happen to have the support that can get me out of it even easier, I'll take it. But do I need it? No. A lot of the issues that I've had throughout my lifetime, I've had to handle it myself. Question 139. Can you maintain high performance and focus during periods of prolonged stress? I thrive in it. Yes. For a while, performance drops, I crumble. Absolutely. This is one of my biggest things too, is even in a professional standpoint, let's be honest, toxic work environments are a very real thing. And I don't want to be the generalist and say that there's more toxic work environments than there are good ones, but it's hard to say in Western society. There's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of information that plagues the internet, especially on YouTube and everything else, and it's a lot of negative content. It's too bad, but that's why I'm coming in to be another positive influencer, right? But I'm not just an influencer, I'm a content creator. I'm coming in here to make a difference. And the best thing about me is even when I'm surrounded by people who are really going through these stressful periods of time, and they're not just living in it, but they're showcasing it. You could see it from their expressions, and they're starting to act different to the extreme. That's where I come into play, and that's one of the best things that I offer as a person, which is my composure, that outward perspective, and really that openness that allows somebody else to be heard. I thrive in it. Question 140. After a failure, How long does it take for you to return to offensive mode? Immediate reset, a few days, weeks, months, I don't recover. Of course, it's dependent on the failure, and everybody's going to say that, right? Everybody's going to say, well, if it's the loss of a loved one, that's a big thing. But that I wouldn't really consider that a failure in that context. That's generally speaking a life-altering situation. I mean, you can put it in the most simplest terms where you're playing a competitive video game and you happen to lose a match or something like that. Are you going to take that and say, wow, I need a break, that sucked because you got beaten so bad? Or are you going to sit there and say, I realize that I made a lot of mistakes, a lot of things could have been different, and maybe if I followed through with that, I could start doing a lot better. And as soon as you start taking that mindset into quite literally everything that you do, you really start to become fulfilling more of an immediate reset, which is what I have, where even though something all of a sudden goes wrong, what's the first thing I'm thinking about? What's the next phase? How do I fix this? And I start pulling in everybody that I need to be able to support to be able to fix it, if I need somebody else. Question 141. Do you complain when things get hard, or do you get quieter and more focused? Laser focus, quiet resolve. I vent a little, I complain, I play victim. This really comes down to my current mood, but what happens is when things get hard, I become laser focused, and I really do dive deeper into what it is I'm working on. If it's dealing with another person, I really start analyzing what is going on behind the scenes, the why factor. I'm not just looking at somebody and saying, you seem kind of stressed out. I start asking the questions, you seem a bit on edge lately. Is everything okay? Do you want to explain why you're feeling this way? Looking at a friend who's starting to feel unwell, instead of asking the question, you okay? Straightforward, but it's not really diving into what you really want to hear. So then instead you flip the script and ask the question, I noticed you haven't been feeling too well lately. Lack of energy, maybe just a little bit more quieter than normal. Is everything all right? But also in a professional standpoint, where I've had a boss come in and have a complaint from either like another staff or something along those lines. And what happens is I don't vent about it. I don't really complain about it. I just sit there and really I take it and then I use it as focus to go and just dive back into the things I need to do. Question 142. In a scarcity situation, do you focus on what you lack or how to exploit what you have? Exploit assets, find solutions, worry about lack of, freeze, or despair. I recognize that there's not everything that I have, and I've come to the realization while doing this assessment too that I was already aware I don't have all my needs met, and it's quite obvious at this point in time. But also, when I have a lack of certain things, I always choose to exploit what I have, because I recognize that though there are, we'll call them weaknesses, I have weaknesses in some of these needs and desires that I have, because I don't have them, there's a lack. But then also there's a lot of things I do have, and the more I reach into exploiting those assets of all the things that I do have, those other parts, those weaknesses, they start to improve over time, closing the gap between the two. Question 143. Do stressful or chaotic situations make you weaker or sharper? Anti-fragile. Sharper, unaffected, a bit rattled, weaker, or broken. Sharper. I come back better than what I was before. Of course, if you need a recovery period, which don't get me wrong, there are times where I've needed that too, but I'm always going to come back better. That's what I strive to do. Question 144. Do you act despite fear, or do you wait for the fear to subside before acting? Action over fear. Usually act. Hesitate often. Wait for safety. Paralyzed. The thing is, for me, what I've come to realize, if I am unable to act, or if I am unable to handle the situation that I'm having to deal with, then I won't have somebody within my support group that is able to do it. And that's really why I choose action over fear, because I could sit here and be nervous about job interviews, or have fear that I'm not going to be hired in the long term, or have fear that the YouTube channel will never take off. And I could have all of these mindsets. These are all real things, but inevitably, instead of spending time thinking about what could happen, the what if scenarios, I'm actively seeking what it takes to not make that happen. I don't want that to happen. So what am I going to do to not make that happen? That's the way I think about it. And that's why I'm choosing action over fear. Question 145. Is your internal willpower strong enough to override your impulses? Iron will, strong, mostly, weak, slave to impulse. I did mention long ago now, the amount of times that I actually order takeout or have fast food of some type is about once every 6 months on average. And that's my impulse, right? It's such a weak impulse to a point where the only reason it happens is because I'm with somebody else. And that person just so happens to come together with me and we're sharing an experience together. That's the iron will. Question 146. Do people naturally quiet down or listen more intently when you speak? Always. Often. Sometimes. Rarely. Never. Always. Always. I don't own the room. I'm not saying that. I don't walk into a room and own it. But I definitely have, in the gamer terms nowadays, they call it aura farming, where somebody is within the vicinity and they just have this aura around them that you can feel the emotion, the internal attributes of character. You can feel who that person is by being in the room with them, right? This is kind of the same thing where people have that, people recognize that within me, but then also they come to the realization that as I continue to speak more, that I'm speaking with not just intention, but with purpose. And everything that I am stating is also held back up with not just an emotional response, but also the logical reasoning behind it too. I just so happen to have a high sense of empathy to want to be more involved with other people. Always. Question 147. Do you leave people with more energy and hope compared to the beginning? Always. Mostly. Neutral. I drain them. I'm a toxic presence. Always. My journey, even if I'm spending 5 minutes with a good friend, my objective is to build and create a new experience. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be just a new experience, but to really reignite passion. And if everybody out here in the world was spending just as little as 10 minutes every day reigniting a passion within a single friendship, sooner or later, that grand cycle will come all the way back around and would come back to me too. And that's a key takeaway of why I choose to reignite passion in my relationships. Question 148. Can you articulate a vision of the future that is so clear it compels others to follow? Crystal clear. Clear, vague, confusing, no vision. When I talk about vision, I'm not simply putting words together. I'm allowing others to be able to see from my perspective. And my goal in my journey is to be able to get others to see that same perspective. Not just recognize it, but really feel it. And that's why when I'm trying to create deeper bonds with my relationships, I'm also giving a shared glimpse of what our vision together is. Because inevitably, when you're spending time with people, you want it to be long-term. And if you're looking for short-term fun, it's not the same. What we're looking for here is to build long-term satisfaction that's deeply engraved, right? And the more that we have that, the more satisfying that our overall life satisfaction will be. Crystal clear. Question 149. Do you tell the truth even when it costs you socially, financially, or professionally? Always, mostly, if safe, rarely, never. I will always tell the truth. Because here's the thing. If for some reason it's going to cost me to tell the truth, here's the honest opinion behind that fact. I probably shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. I mean, that's just being honest. And thankfully, I don't ever get into those situations where to tell the truth is going to cost me in the long run. Thankfully. But inevitably, what it comes down to me is I'm always going to tell the truth because I'm trying to do the right thing. That's where my value system and my vision of the future and everything comes down to, is I'm trying to do better for myself, to do better for others, is to bridge the gap between integrity and life, right? Thankfully, I generally do not have a cost to tell the truth. I rarely have the cost to tell the truth, but I do speak the truth. And if I had to, I still would. Question 150. The final question. Here we are. Jeez, it feels like it took a long time, didn't it? Are you loyal to your principles even when it is inconvenient or unpopular? Unwavering, Yes, mostly. I conform to others sometimes. I fold, they win. And hopefully to the very last question and what you've come to the understanding of me as a person, even if you are a first-time viewer, you understand that I am unwavering to my principles. I will always be loyal to them because they also solidify the purpose that I have in the first place. And now we will finally get to see the final solution here. So once you get past the entire assessment, the full 150 questions, you get to this results page. The reality resonance profile, as I call it. You get to have your name, it's all caps, the hierarchy of needs, the AZF analysis. And now what you're going to be able to see here is you're going to have a macro balance chart. It is a spider chart, and it showcases, and if you highlight over, the percentage of satisfaction per each category, which I see I appear to be doing very well. And in terms of these acronyms, they're also written in here in parentheses. But if you wanted to have any other detail, you could click the button up here, which is view definitions. And now, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit because these words are a little small, you're going to find subcategories. There's a primary category with subcategories, and the subcategories average out to make the primary category. And within the responses that you have and the point allocations given per category, you will be given a title associated to each of those. And there is a finalized title at the very end below, where it is a full average of all 150 questions. And ultimately, you're going to lead through some of these, may resonate with you. We call this the spectrum of being. You could be thriving at the highest point, prospering a little bit less, satisfied, great, but not perfect, stable, good, but could be better, absolutely could be better, neutral, you're neither in danger but don't really feel satisfied at all, life feels gray, at risk, your cracks are forming in your foundation, you're near critical, this is bad, your resources are scarce and you really need to start turning things around, or you become critical, and that is the hollow, where this is generally speaking systematic failure in the most deepest sense, requirements of you need to do something different if you, for some reason you reach there. And in terms of defining each of these categories, the subcategories, or even the major primary ones, there is the glossary here. And go ahead, you can pause the video at this time, be able to read through all of these. I won't go through all of these just because of how long it's already been taken to do the assessment. But what you come to the understanding is, generally speaking, it is based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs with some extra twists, right? These are AveyaZ specific applied attributes of this hierarchy of needs, right? And just because they are new, we'll touch on them. So cognitive is more of the overall driving for understanding and curiosity, right? What we come to the understanding is you find greater purpose when you have curiosity that drives you to do something new. But also the aesthetic means, which is more about an application of self-esteem, but also people come to the understanding where not only do they need to have the appreciation of small details in their lives, but also the appreciation in oneself in a physical standpoint too. If somebody is unhappy with their appearance, it really does hinder a lot of self-confidence, and that's just the truth of the matter. And then of course, the undeniable Aveya Factor. AZF is the new and official acronym letter format, AZF to the Aveya Factor, built upon resolve, character, resonance, and resilience. All great stuff here. And then now, when you look at my detail, I'm only going to touch upon it a little bit here. AZF, the ultimate resonance and lasting impact. Overall physiological needs, I'm thriving. And that makes sense. In terms of those minor situations where my sleep is not super consistent, it's consistent, but not perfect in terms of quality. Makes sense. Overall safety and stability, 71% is satisfied. And you know, to be honest, I expected that to be lower because of my financial discomfort right now, and also the overall purpose. That's just based on what I am right now, and also the where I want to be, right? I'm not where I want to be, and that needs to change. I recognize that. So satisfied is still great in my honest opinion. Love and belonging, thriving, 92%. Very high ratings on intimacy, social, community, and acceptance. Esteem and respect, 100% perfection in terms of need basis. And that is phenomenal. We can't really can't ask for anything better than that. Cognitive reasons. I mean, that's great too. Very high capacity. Thriving in aesthetic needs. And that makes total sense because I'm very comfortable within myself. Self-actualization in terms of trying to find potential, not just finding it, but understanding that I have potential to become something so much greater. And I have that other persona in the back of my mind that says, I will be him one day. And I continue to do that. Makes sense. Transcendence, trying to become something and developing purpose beyond the means of what I have. Yes, absolutely. Thriving. Love to see it. And the most important one to me, to my heart, is the Aveya Factor. 100% thriving to this is truly the one thing that is driving the purpose of this channel. And I am the living embodiment of the Aveya Factor, to be the Aveya difference, to be the person who will create ultimate resonance and that lasting impact. So the grand audit verdict at the very end of everything, all of these together, and I'm super shocked to see this, is I am thriving. Still, even with those minor inconveniences that I'm going through, I'm still thriving. I'm still showing up and I'm doing everything I need to do. And I'm trying to be the best version that I can. I am recognized as the top title. Oh shoot, I just screwed it up. The top title, The Ascendant. If for some reason you having any issues, you could go ahead and restart and go through it again. And now, just like I normally do at the very end of the video, before the conclusion of course, if you go to the main page of the AveyaZ YouTube channel and you click the more button, you're going to find right here at the bottom, this is the document that provides all available links to my material. So right here, I'll go ahead and copy this. Scroll on over, paste it over. And what happens once you paste that into another browser for that link, it will take you to this document. And once you scroll all the way down to the bottom here, you will find the link to the AveyaZ Hierarchy of Needs Assessment Tool. And this is actually the applied Hierarchy of Needs Assessment Tool. So as soon as you click the link here, you open it up and here you are. And then you can go ahead, run the tool and take the assessment. I'll tell you what, I recognize this was a very long video, but what I want you to know is that I really do appreciate you being around here and sticking through it, because not only was this a vulnerability moment for me to really go through and showcase this, but I really did put a lot of effort into creating this assessment tool. And there will be many more that I will go and create into the future, but this is more of a reality take in comparison to what I normally do on this channel. There's a dichotomy between lore specific attributes, systems, and really trying to develop into a fantasy storytelling character basis. I spent a lot of time doing that. That's also the basis of the channel. But then also really taking all that information and diving into the more realism of our daily lives and applying those gamified terms into how we shape the reality of our own story. Because inevitably, I could tell you exactly how everything works for me. I could tell you who I am and everything that it means to be who I am as a person. Internal attributes of character, vision, purpose, shared experiences in creating unity, resonance, the Aveya Factor. Everything that I do is to make a promise. Everything that I do is to continue to change the hearts of many, one person at a time. And that's why you're here. And that's why my story continues. And creating this assessment tool is just the beginning. We will have many more. I needed an assessment that would help provide others a way to be able to understand their own life satisfaction, because inevitably mine is not perfect either. But now I understand where I can improve and what I need to do to improve it. You'll feel the same way after you do the assessment. Thanks for being here. My name is Aveya. This is AveyaZ. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.